Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga-Texas construction update video.
Well everybody, welcome back to Giga-Texas. It's Monday the 8th of May and there's a lot going on as usual. But before we get into what we'll see on the site, let's talk briefly about this. This is the shareholders meeting and it will be happening about 1 week from now, actually next Tuesday, the 16th of May, and it will be held here at Giga-Texas. Now I know a lot of the RSVPs and the plus ones are out there, but if you can get a chance to come out here, I hope that you do have that opportunity, because it's a rare chance to be able to see inside the factory and also hear from some of the leaders of Tesla. Another thing that I want to talk about briefly in the intro is this. This is my video that I did yesterday, and I decided to go in depth about the Megapack installation here at Giga-Texas, and it was so much information that I did a standalone video. So make sure you check that out. It'll give you a lot of information about the Megapack installation here, the size, and some of the timelines associated with the construction. Now, speaking of which, as you can see here, we did visit the Megapack site today, and it is quite busy. Some of the details here that I'd like to highlight. First, this image shows you the conduit that is being laid underneath the power lines. Now this extends all the way to the northeast corner of the building, where it splits into two parts. One part goes into the casting machine structure on the northeast side. The other wraps around the east side and is preparing to tap into the existing electrical conduit that is powering Giga-Texas. The next thing I want to show you is here. This is the main construction site, and you can see those trenches have really developed. In fact, they're adding additional trenches kind of angling off to the sides on the north end. And in addition to the trenches and all the conduit that they're laying, you can see here on the north end, they have this device that's pressing in what looks to be some sort of material bases. And I don't know exactly what these are. They look like they may be steel that's being pressed down into the ground, and then they have a footing on top of it. Very interesting. If you happen to know what it is, please let me know. I'd appreciate that. Now, another couple of things that we did visit this morning in the video. Here you can see we spent some time on the far west side, where that large clearing looks to be almost completed with the grade work, and now they are starting to spread in a large section that gravel. Now, in addition to this large area, as you can see here, there's a new area that's being excavated from here directly to the north, and it ties in to that more northerly material staging location. And this is very interesting to see as this area continues to get wider as well. So it's going to be something that I will monitor as this develops. And the last thing that I want to talk about is here on the south end. This is where they're doing all the ground and grade preparation work for the building expansion. In addition to that, you can see the GeoPiers have been very busy, and in this image you can see a lot of the little dots in the ground. Those are individual GeoPiers that have been completed, and by my estimation there are well over 100 of them completed already. Nearby, as you can see in this image, the Continuous Flight Auger Pile system continues to operate mostly on that southeast side, directly south of the stamping machine structure. So it's interesting that they feel like they need additional strength to hold up the footings for the structure in this area. So otherwise, there's a lot more to see in the video today, and I hope that you like the discussion in the intro. And again, make sure you take a look at my standalone video about the Megapack installation. As always, thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate your support, and I hope you have a great day. Take care.
My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga-Texas. On today, we'll start off on the west side of the highway, and you can see quite a bit of earthwork that is going on, trailing off to the north, and we'll follow that a little later in the video so you can see where it goes. But you can see here some of the earthwork continues to finish off the grade, particularly in that rectangular section, while in other sections you can see the geotextile membrane has been laid down. Crews are spreading dirt on top of that, and that strengthens the soil. And then also we can see a growing section with the final gravel mix. And again, this could be the final temporary covering, and this could be allowing for more of the trailers for the warehouse and wheels to perhaps use this section. Maybe it could be parking, or it could be the beginning of another construction. So we'll have to continue to monitor that. But this is something I wanted to show you. As we continue to the north, you can see that there's a large earthwork section that is growing in width, and it's kind of encroaching into this middle grass green belt. And as you can see, it continues all the way to the north, and it eventually connects to this northern material staging location. And this is a very interesting development. It kind of suggests that we'll see future continued development of this site and flattening it out and preparing it for either more logistics yards. This is called the West Support Facility, or maybe we'll see some construction. But as you can tell here, the earthwork has now connected to this material staging location. And while we're here, we'll take a look and we can see some of the materials that are stored here. We see some of the red components that go to platforms, other types of materials, some of these containers that are used to store materials temporarily. On the left-hand side of the screen, we can see containers fashioned into a workshop with that roof section in between the two containers, and some more materials in the bottom center. And then here next to these two large tents, we can see a trailer that looks like it's for offices, probably for some contractors, maybe the ones doing the landscaping, since we see landscaping material here. But anyway, it's interesting to see the developments on this material staging location. So now that we've crossed back over the highway, one of the things, if you take a look to the left of the screen real quick, there's that missing shiny steel tank that was used for nitrogen, and that was part of the processes for the 4680. So the fact that it's been removed is very interesting and something I'll continue to monitor. We can see how this landscaped section with the tables, chairs, and the benches looks today. Now, something I just noticed across the road, you can see underneath these windows where they're doing the staining and having the plastic, all of these Model Ys. Now take a look at that black ramp. You'll see Model Ys starting to exit this part of the factory. This is definitely new, and you can see the number of Model Ys that are staged here, and some of the workers with those vests. Those are the end-of-line crews. I don't know if this is a permanent change, a temporary change, or what, but it is something new to see Model Ys exiting this part of the factory. As we continue further to the south, we can see that the staining process is kind of coming together in the middle where the big tall glass is located. We see more of the landscaping. Some of the concrete has now been poured next to those trees. We can see that the plants in the planters have been installed on the sides of the cyber berms using that terraced kind of material that they installed. Looks like they're starting to uncover some of this trapezoidal section concrete and removing the wooden panels to protect them. And then we also see what looks to be more preparation to put that stainless steel cladding on those steel beams that emanate out from the main doors. So it looks like the press is on to get this section completed by the shareholders meeting next week. So it'll be interesting to see just how quickly they can get the rest of this completed. It does look like they're doing some work on that finished concrete as well, maybe making it a polished finish. As we continue further to the south, you can see the progress with the white staining. You can see the work that's going on here on this side next to all of the trailers, and another vehicle bringing what looks to be some green wrapped items out of this particular semi truck. And we see quite a bit of this going in. Usually that means that it's production equipment for the assembly lines. You can see quite a bit of workers just arriving for work today. And then here on this trailer, and then now on top of the platform, you can see this kind of a unit that has fans on it being lifted up onto this platform and then getting ready to be moved inside. And speaking of fans, you can see 6 of these very large yellow fans. Looks like it's being used to increase the ventilation in this portion of the building and taking advantage with all the windows that have been removed. So let's fly around the south end and take a look at some of the activity and changes on this side of the building. Now first, most of the grade looks like it has now been completed, and a lot of the work with the GeoPiers, and we'll come back and take a look at that a little later in the video. But you can see where the platform used to be on the left-hand side of the screen, the 2 large doors underneath where that man lift is on the wall, those are the doors for the stamping 2, and there's quite a bit of concrete trucks that are moving into that section today, in addition to the concrete trucks supporting this continuous flight auger pier system. And then here we can see the crane is on the move with that pier drilling equipment, and it's positioning itself to start up some more drilling near that wall. And you can see on this section quite a bit of the piers have already been installed, making this section much more reinforced with the piers that reach down to the bedrock, and those will eventually support the foundations. Another thing here on this side of the building is of interest. See those blue covered items? Another one is getting ready to be moved inside. One has already been moved inside, and these are being installed in stamping 2 to finish up the assembly process of the AIDA stamping presses and some of the other metal forming machines in that section. As we turn back towards the west, we can see again this crane on the move, repositioning to start a new continuous flight auger pier drilling operation. We can see some of those rebar cages that will eventually be put into those piers. And we can also see quite a bit of earthwork going on here, kind of at the point of the cyber pond, and preparing this entire southerly section. Now eventually there will be a permanent road installed on this side of the cyber berm, or cyber pond. So maybe that is what we are seeing going on with the berm and groundwork here. As we turn back towards the factory, I mentioned the GeoPiers, and I want to show you not only the equipment here, but if you look on the ground, you see all those little white dots all around this particular section. Each one of those is a pier, and the way that's done is a hole is drilled, they fill it with gravel, and then they compact that gravel down to make the piers themselves. In fact, here you see some crews working on one of those impactors that would go down into the bore to compact all of the gravel to make the actual piers. Now it seems to me that the GeoPiers are being put in the middle section of this clearing, while the continuous flight auger piles are being put in on the east side. So that's something to monitor to see why that they are doing that and why the soil needs different kinds of these piers. Next to this trailer, we can see the crews preparing more of the rebar cages that go into the continuous flight auger piers or pile holes, and that's great to see that that is continuing. It shows that there's quite a bit of those piers being made. Over on this section near the south bridge, we can see that horizontal drilling work is continuing, and looks like maybe almost wrapping up. You can see into that bore underneath the power lines some of that kind of that gray slurry mix that's usually used to help pull the pipe through that bore. You can see some other excavation work. And then as we go over the Colorado River, we can see that the south bank is where that pipe is being laid out to be pulled through that particular bore. So I'm going to turn back towards the main factory. This will give us a good look at the south end and how this appears today as we fly over the Colorado River and proceed back over towards the southeast corner. This view back to the west at the higher altitude gives you a really good sense of how this section of the factory and the construction site is transforming. You can see that road work on the south end of the cyber pond, all of the grade work for the extension of the building, and of course you can see those blue items. There's two more large items remaining that are wrapped, and that's for the stamping 2, and it's great to see that that is now happening, and that final equipment assembly is underway. As we proceed more towards the north, you can see that clearing off to the right and center, and it continues to have more fill dirt installed here, so that grade is rapidly coming up to level. And then here over the sedimentation basin, we're looking at that testing and calibration lot. A lot of activity, but it does look like there's less vehicles here than normal. And of course the superchargers are very busy as well under those canopies. This east main entrance, we can see that the racks and some of the castings have continued to be put in front of the door, but in front of all of these receiving doors, you can see that it's been greatly cleaned up, the racks and the number of castings, and then that one remaining section still having concrete removed so that they can do some reconfiguration with that aprons section. Here on the east side of casting, what I want to show you is the amount of conduit that is being installed. You can see how it's reached very far to the south here. That red kind of material is to protect the conduit in case of future excavation work. And you can see a lot of plastic sheeting on the berm itself. I think that's where we're going to see some more grass seed applied. So it's great to see the progress going on there. And that is related to the Megapack installation site, which we'll look at later in the video. As we proceed over this east parking lot towards the die shop and the battery cathode plant, we can see this section there where the old houses used to be. More trailers, more semis pulling in some equipment, and also a black tank waiting for further movement. On the north staging yard here, what we can see is the TKS trailer and the 3 tanks that are used for that painting system, still awaiting movement inside. And we see more materials, more trucks bringing some materials and unloading on this particular section as well. As we turn back towards the north and fly over these workshops and materials, we get a good view of the die shop on the left and the battery cathode plant on the right. On the bottom, you see that trailer. That's some of the offices for the contractors that work on these particular projects. And then as we continue around this corner, looking to the north, you can see that red spreader bar on the left and this 7-story tall assembled platform with the equipment ready to be moved inside. But there is one difference that I noted. You take a look at that concrete trapezoidal section, you can see there's mounts on the concrete and steel cables holding this assembly. I don't know if this is just a temporary move to keep it stable until it's ready to be moved inside or what, but that's a very interesting change or update from what we saw on my previous video. As we fly along the east side towards the north, it gives you a good feel for what this side looks like today, the activity, the materials, and the equipment. And we can see some of the cars and the containers stored on the right-hand side, and the cell test lab with the horseshoe type road on the left continues to see more work to complete this structure. It looks like crews are working on that new AC system that was installed about a week ago. And as we turn back towards the building, we can see on the bottom of the screen, looks like a yellow crane is potentially being disassembled, some of the weights being put onto those trailers, and this may just indicate that this crane is no longer needed at this time for the construction. On the north end, we can see the tanks have been repositioned, but still waiting to be moved inside. Some of the conduit boxes, the concrete ones, waiting for installation. And this berm work continues to widen and remove that dirt. And much of that dirt is being used in other sites around Giga-Texas. As we approach the alleyway, we can stop here at the galvanized steel structure, which is the cooling plant. You can see how this continues to progress. A lot of scaffolding on the roof section as they fit that out, and eventually we're going to see those Evapco parts that are stored on the east side moved over here for installation. It's a good view just down the alley of some of the activity, and also you can see next to that tree with that concrete box some more of the conduit still being worked on here. As I turn back towards the die shop, this will give you a good view of how this building looks today. Almost all of the wall panels on the east side and most on the south side have been installed. A lot of material still on the roof waiting for installation, and you can see this section, about half to 60% of the roof has now got that weatherproof membrane and the insulation already installed. As we fly over towards this section, we can see the workshop with a lot of activity and people in that section. And also, as I turn back, you can see the trenching work here for the blue water pipe continues. Looks like there's a T that branches off towards the die shop, and the rest connects to the main that runs down the alleyway between the two buildings. As I pull back and come over towards the opening here, we can see that deep foundation has got all the concrete done. We can see the formwork for the perimeter grade beam. A lot more of the rebar has been installed on top of the yellow moisture barrier. All of the grade has been prepared here, and soon we should start seeing some of the concrete pours to finish the slab around that deep foundation. But this is a good view of that foundation itself, all of the various mounts and the different elevations and the size with the workers standing on top of it. On this side towards the south, we can see the crane is active, installing more of the wall panels. At this rate, certainly by the end of the week, all of these wall panels will be on. They may finish up the ones on the south end and then be working up near where that deep foundation was located. As I do a 360-degree turn here, you look down on the ground, you can see some of those concrete vaults, and next to those trailers, that's for more of the conduit. You can see how the structure looks today. And then as we continue to turn towards the west, underneath this area, over to where you see the excavation work is where the electrical conduit has already been installed. And you can see how it's continuing to progress towards these concrete vaults. And then underneath the road here, over to this section. Now what we'll see along this entire length of the construction site here is, in addition to the black HDPE pipe that you see coming out of the trenches, they'll also be doing the conduit, and it will eventually connect to the conduit work that's going on for the new permanent electrical switchyard and the Megapack section. So as we fly up towards the permanent electrical switchyard, we see the temporary switchyard on the left-hand side of the screen. This is just a good view of the activity here today. And one of the things I want to point out as I'll turn back is you can see where the fence line ends right now, but there appears to be another fence post and then a tall security post. I believe we'll see that fence line eventually go to the end of that section, so lengthening it another maybe 20 meters or so. The gravel mix installation continues here on the north end. Again, we'll see that completed across the entire switchyard before they can energize the system. But it looks like they're installing some of that gravel on the north side of the fence line and the east side of the fence line as well. So I'll climb up in altitude so we can go over the power lines. But also, if you looked at my 7 May video, the deep dive on the Megapack, you'll see quite a bit of what has been installed here described with the documents from the Texas Public Utilities that we went through, and it kind of explains why all of these particular poles, the connections, and how the electrical switchyard was basically constructed, and how that will support the Megapack site, which is coming into view right now. So what I want to do is I'm going to start on an altitude and look down to give you kind of a bird's eye view first of this section. You can see on the north end, it looks like they are installing some steel pipes and having mounts on top of them straight down vertically into the ground. And we'll see those closer in a little bit. But we can also see the trench work, all of the conduit here, some new trench work as well. And then on the top of the screen, we can see more of that conduit that extends all the way down to Giga-Texas. But as I bring the drone down and we fly back to the north end, this gives you a different perspective of the Megapack construction site. A lot of the conduit has been delivered and is stored temporarily on the right-hand side of the screen. We can see some other materials as well. As we drop down in altitude, we see survey crews. You can see these pipes and the arrangement that they have been installed here. And then this piece of equipment and this worker is preparing to have this steel pipe pressed into the ground by that machinery. And again, I'm not sure what that is, so if you happen to know, let me know in the comments. I would appreciate that. You can see the work installing conduit on both of these trenches, and then that new thinner trench on the right-hand side of the screen. And as I turn towards the left, you can see more trench work is underway. This is to continue the trenching on 2 parallel trenches underneath the power lines that extends all the way to the northeast corner of the factory, and then it will connect the Megapack and the electrical switchyard. In the middle of the screen, we can see that underground stormwater pipe in that pit, and then it's starting to move off towards the east. As I pivot the drone over this fenced-in section, you can see the trailers for the offices. You can see conduit with that red covering. Again, that is put on so that in the future, if there's any excavation and they see that color, they know that there's electrical conduit, and it's to prevent any injuries for future workers. As we cross over Tesla Road and this small parking lot, we can see a lot of activity going on the northeast corner, particularly with the conduit installation in the section where the berm has been widened. You can see that plastic wrap that is placed around the berm. I think that's just to be erosion control from any rains until they get a chance to have the grass installed. You can see the number of castings and how it's organized now down the east side of the building, and also some wooden crate deliveries. As we pull away, I can show you the conduit that's continuing on the dirt section here. A lot of the castings, some unpacked wooden crates for the casting machine structure, and some more conduit that's here in this cordoned off section. Again, more of the castings on this side. This is a very interesting little tiny trailer that's been positioned here. I'm not sure exactly why that's there, but I thought it was very interesting to see. You can also tell that the black and yellow, the ramps are waiting for assembly and installation somewhere on this side of the factory. And then here we see another large set of deliveries for the 4680 battery cell section. They're wrapped in this kind of a silver aluminum foil type wrapping. You can see some up on the platform already, and then some on the trailer. We won't get a chance to see them pick this package up and put it onto the trailer from close in, but towards the end of the video, if you look closer, you'll be able to see that being lifted up. But I think that this is related to 4680 production, but I'm not 100% sure. It is going to the 4th floor, so that gives me a little bit of a pause because most of the work is done on the 3rd floor and below. But anyway, that's a quick view of Giga-Texas on this Monday. I hope that you found the information helpful. Check out my 7 May deep dive on the Megapacks for a lot more information. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.